I'm Dr. Rahman, and welcome to Black Women's Health Podcast.
I stand on the truth that your health, your joy, and your life does not have to expire after 40, and that you have the definitive power to rewrite what's possible after 40. And so that is where my calling is now. And I'm so glad you brought that up because that is where my heart is now, and that is how my mission hasn't completely pivoted, but my focus has definitely pivoted. So, if I may, for me, as I approached the amazing world of menopause, I was having mild symptoms. I wasn't even quite aware I was fully in perimenopause, and I reached a tipping point. And so, for me, I've struggled with my weight my entire life.
Mm.
And as I reached the tipping point a couple years back, I was at the highest weight that I had been in my entire life. This menopause belly was just appearing and growing and growing. It was looking like I was about 5 months pregnant. I took a picture that's on my book now, and I was sending that picture to my nutritionist asking, like, what is happening? Like, I'd never been small, but I'd never had this going on. And so, because I struggled so long, out of gas, very out of hope, really out of inspiration. In that moment, I reached in my toolkit. I call it as a coach, and to reach to do a few of the things I knew that would help relieve a little bit of the symptoms that I was having, the inflammation, chronic inflammation, low energy, and the weight loss resistance. And so I reached that tipping point, and I decided to start by drinking more water, to get moving just a little bit, and to do a fast. Now, I fasted off and on my whole life, and so I was kind of used to it. And it just so happens when I decided to do that, let's say on a Friday, I ran across a church that was starting their annual Daniel fast.
Mhm.
And if you're not familiar with, if listeners are not familiar, it's a 21-day fast where you pull away and you're mostly focused on um, fruit, vegetables, nuts, and seeds, right? So you're pulling away from meat, dairy, processed food, sugars, and all those things. And whereas I felt like I had done the Daniel fast before, when I looked at their parameters, I thought to myself, wow, I don't think I've ever given up all of these things at one time. But because I was so out of hope and inspiration, I didn't question it. And I'm typically an overanalyzer. But this time I decided to just jump in. And that decision led me on a journey that just transformed everything for me. And so, as I was on the 21-day Daniel fast, I just so happened to run into some YouTube videos that talked about the power of plant based eating. And all the diets and things and powders and spells that I've tried my entire life, I had never considered plant based or anything, even vegetarian at all. I just felt like it didn't take all that. That was where my mindset was. And so as I watched the video and I'm on, and by the way, I didn't even realize I was on a plant-based diet. This is how uninformed I just didn't connect it. I didn't connect it until about 35 days in because I continued the fast.
35. Okay.
Yes, I after the 21 days was ending, I was afraid to go back to eating, and I wasn't eating bad. I had gotten to a place where I was eating mostly lean meats, um, a little carbs, and good fats for the most part. So again, 21 days, I continued on. I started listening to some videos, and if you know YouTube is going to start feeding you more videos. So accidentally on a plant-based diet. I'm running into these videos talking about the power, the transformational power of nutrition for your health, plant-based eating, and all the sorts. And I was like, wait a minute, it cannot be this simple, right? And so I spent a lifetime trying things and walking around, never really looking at nutrition solely or plant-based, leaning more so towards a plant-based lifestyle as a potential solution for me. So ultimately, I released the menopause belly, the brain fog got kicked out. I released more than 60 pounds, and
Wow.
I got so inspired and so activated and motivated. I wrote a whole book in 4 months. because one of the biggest parts of the journey, like you said, is the our I'm going to use the word addiction, but it's not quite I mean. Our use of food for so many different things. It's such habit, it's such tradition, it's such baked in. We do it completely unconscious, number one.
Yes.
And then number two, just the mindset around it. Like, yeah, as many things if I tried as much research and science. I'm a nerd. I love research. I look at things. I had tried a lot of things, and I never would have leaned that way if I didn't accidentally fall into it. And if I had not been at such a tipping point where I decided not to question it, not to overthink it, and not to just look too deep into it. Let me just jump in and try this Daniel fast.
Well, that's inspirational. But my question is, what kept you going in the beginning
Yeah.
when there wasn't a huge weight loss, where your clothes weren't fitting differently, where you were making these changes and not seeing immediate results?
But that's the thing I did.
Oh,
I did. I absolutely did. And so think about it. Now, I've been dieting my whole life. We're talking 20, 30, 40 years that I've been dieting in some respect, right? So I've lost weight. I've lost and gained the same 20 plus pounds for 30 years, right? So I wasn't a stranger to that. So although I started to release some weight, I could instantly feel the inflammation going away, the bloat going away. And I was impressed, but I wasn't that impressed because remember, I've been down this road my whole life. But what I noticed was it was different. It was different than any other time that I had lost weight or released weight or even released information. It was completely different. And then I think it was divine that I was learning about the power, and the stories I was reading and the data I was reading was so transformational. And that, for the first time, was the experience that I was having with weight loss this time. And so as I went, as I got closer to the first 21 days, like I say, it was a little bit of fear that kept me going because I didn't want to feel anywhere near how bad I was feeling. So I was like, this is making me feel better. So I'm just going to keep going this direction, right? And then the more I learned and I just started devouring the information, I was like, wow, this is amazing. And then lastly, the way my physical body changed. Remember, I lost weight before, but the way my physical body changed, it changed different than it ever changed before. So I'm curvy, I'm hippie, right? And so my entire life, my whole one side of my family has these hips and thighs, and family members, friends, without me asking them their opinion, have always said, "Well, if you lose weight, you're never going to lose your hips. You're never going to lose your hips." Well, guess what? I lost my hips. So I was like, this is wild. This is wild. So again, my body started to transform in a way I've never seen before. And so I just kept stumbling forward. It wasn't perfect by any means. I love to share that with people. I was on, I was off, I was up, I was down. But every time I checked in with my nutritionist, if you looked at my results or my journey on a graph, you would see she's up, she's down, she's on, she's off, right? She's good, she's bad. But what you would notice is that the negative things were trending down, my weight,
mm-hmm,
inflammation,
mm-hmm.
and positive things were trending up. Um, the brain fog was gone, the energy was up, creativity was up, my mood, my joy was up. And so I just kept stumbling and stumbling forward.
Did you do, and what was your thinking or response when people would say to you, you're not getting enough protein, or maybe now you're losing too much weight?
Mhm.
How did you deal with the comments that you were hearing on your journey?
Yeah, I love that you asked that. And I definitely included that in the book. That's when I wrote kind of like a little formula, and that's number 5, getting ready for the new you. But some of the thing that I face is what I call the stank face. When people say, "So you're just drinking juice?" Because I did some juice fasting. You're not eating meat. So in the beginning, I stumbled through my words a little bit. I didn't tell anyone when I first got on the 21-day Daniel fast. I didn't announce it because I was, in a pretty kind of touchy place. So I just started about moving about. People, my family, friends were kind of used to me doing things because remember, I've dieted my whole life. So they be like, "What are you doing now?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm gonna move away from meat for a little bit. Right? I'm gonna just try that. Oh, I'm trying a little juicing." I would just kind of throw a little comment and just shut up. And then eventually, as people started being like, "Okay, so what are you doing again? So what's with that meat, no meat thing again?" Because people could see me changing in a way they had never seen before. And
Wow.
so eventually my confidence, again, I would say a little something and then get out of the conversation because I knew I didn't have the wherewithal to try to defend my position because I was figuring it out myself.
How did you deal with holidays?
I had already gotten into the mindset where I was looking at every meal is a new start. So if I ate something in this meal, the next meal, instead of I
No
ate one,
guilt.
instead of blowing the whole week, right? And
Right.
these are some of the things I use in coaching, right? And so for Christmas, my best friend, I was with her. She and I do Christmas together, our families. And so we talked it through. And she was like, "Well, what do you want to eat?" And I said, "Well, out of the things she was cooking, we talked about what she could do. I think she made the dressing that year and she made me a version without meat, right? And then I made myself cabbage. I actually fried mushrooms that year. And so fried may not be the best, but it was better than what I had been doing. And so that's the thing I do as well. I made a decision not to overly frustrate myself.
Mhm.
That as long as I did a higher portion of things that were good for me or leading me in the right direction than that weren't, then I was still winning.
Mhm.
And again, that's why I love to share that I wasn't perfect. I'm not perfect by any means, but I still won.
Mhm.
Your taste buds change. Your everything changes.
You mentioned that you were a coach. Were you a coach during this period, or did the coaching come as a result of your personal transformation?
No, I've been a professional coach for more than 15 years. I'm an executive and personal development coach, trainer, and speaker. Also, a very new author. I'm very excited about that. And I've been at this work for, I'm pushing over 20 years. I definitely come to this work by way of passion. So I have worked with nonprofit organizations, Fortune 500 companies, helping them reach their greatest and highest potential. I've coached and counseled thousands of clients across the country, again, helping them reach their greatest and highest potential. And what I'm proud of most is really being able to do the work that I know that I'm called to do in terms of my purpose. So it's just a joy for me to help people get out of their own way, kind of figure out what are the possibilities and get moving forward towards their best life. I used to work for the federal government and I have a master's in biology. And so I was going after being a forensic scientist. I was really interested in that. And as I graduated from college, like so many of us, I could not find work in my field. And during that time, I got interested in real estate as a side hustle. I was like, oh, I'll just make a lot of money in real estate. Then I won't have to really worry about this. And it was in real estate, helping people in real estate, where I discovered a passion to help people move towards their goal, right? So that was the first piece. And then so I started actually as a financial coach. I was a financial educator, financial coach. From there, I always could see there was something under it wasn't just about the numbers. It was so much more about the person and where they were, what they wanted. Sometimes it's about their fear, sometimes it's about their upbringing, sometimes it was about their environment. And I was so interested in the person. So that's where I discovered the world of personal development coaching, right? And executive coaching. And so once I leaned into that world, just everything opened up for me. So again, a bit of a meandering journey, but that is how I discovered the world of personal development and coaching. As a coach, I always find that there's always, we go after goals. I always say you can Google anything, right? There's no shortage of information out there. I often find that the disconnect is behavior wise. Either we're getting in our own way, maybe there's something from our past, some of our experience, our upbringing, our culture, that we're just not sure how to take the information and make it work for us. And so,
Mm,
as a coach, number one, clarity. I feel like, we feel like we're clear about what we want, but often we're not uber clear about that. So helping people really connect back to what they truly feel like they want, what they feel like that desire, and what definitively does that look like. And then from there, really helping people, meeting people where they are, right? Because again, we can all access the same level of information, but I'm probably going to walk that out a little different than you are, right? And then the next person and the next woman. So really helping people kind of sometimes what I call lower the barrier of entry and figure out their own personalized path forward towards where they're reaching to. Like I say, meeting people where they are, that's a key thing I do. Taking the behavioral positive psychology approach, like more of a strength-based approach, is another thing. And I'm going to say it this way, but it's not exactly what I mean. Helping people get out, helping us get out of our own way. Because I don't think again, I really don't think it's always that we don't know what to do. We don't have the right information. Sometimes we don't. But
mhm,
sometimes that biggest piece is getting into what I call bold and decisive action. Because again, we can know what to do, but the disconnect often is how am I getting into action or why am I not getting into action? And so that to me, that is where the deeper work comes from um, in what I do. What I do now in helping, so in the journey of personal development, helping people reach their goals, and women in particular, I find that health is a major piece. I feel like we know that, but working with people from all different levels of income, all different people across the country, I find that health and well-being is the through line, right? Particularly in our world now where stress is a bit of the norm, right? Where we as women, we're reaching this midlife. We as women, we're caregivers, we're a little bit of everything to everybody. And so the through line is health and well-being. And so part of what I do now is in that area, helping people really discover what does optimal health and wellness look like for them. So there's a little bit of science in there because I can still digest subjects that feel a little complicated and make them very digestible. There is a through line that people in general want to feel better. They want to have joy. They want to enjoy their day-to-day life, whether it be in work or at home and family. And so there's kind of through lines that I feel like that are similar, but how that plays out specifically to each individual person's life, where they are, their age and their stage, I definitely feel like that's going to look slightly different. Friends and family kept asking me, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And when someone asked me something multiple times, I was like, "Okay, let me write this down so I don't have to keep repeating myself." And I made a joke. I was like, "Well, the book will be out next year. You guys can buy it." And they were like, "We want it. When is it coming?" So when I sat down to write it, you know, what I didn't want to get lost in is eat this and don't eat that. Now that is true. I'm giving insight into food, the food industry, how things have changed, the power of plant-based eating. But what came to me was I'm a coach. I help people reach their greatest and highest potential. I help meet people where they are, help them find a customized path forward for themselves. And so I wrote the book from a total coaching perspective. And
mm,
so I share my story. But in the book, I write, even if you read the book, I write three ways you can approach the book. Because if you're busy, maybe you just want to go straight to the my ultimate code for success. If you want the whole story, you feel like you're a person that needs context, start from top to finish, right? And after each chapter, I explain the chapter, explain what was my experience, some data behind it, and I also have coaching questions so that a person can see where they fit in. How could they take this information and make it work for them where they are based on where they are in life, their season of life, what they have access to. Because again, and that's the very reason why I changed the name of the book from the accidental almost vegan, because people were tripping up on the word vegan, and that's actually
Mm-hmm.
not what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want people to trip up on something when all I'm trying to do is really, number one, raise awareness.
Right.
Because number one in my code is getting real with food, and that's re-educating yourself on how the food industry has changed, right?
Yes.
First and foremost, getting and then realizing that the number one is deciding what it looks like for you to either reduce or eliminate a level of processed food, meat, and dairy, right? And then secondly, moving in and realizing that the industry's changed so much that we're actually not getting the nutrients that we need anymore. So how are we going to do that? Right? There's a supplement word out there that says, I got one for you. Or we could look at the power of whole foods to really start getting the nutrients that our body needs to function. And then detoxing. We've been taking in food for 20, 30, 40 years, and we might detox one for a week or for a day or something like that, and feel like that's going to be enough to remove all the things we're taking in. So just incorporating all these things in the book again, so it's not just about eat this, don't eat that. It is to raise awareness. It is to really kind of shake up your mindset, shake up your idea and your perspective around food, right? It is to meet you where you are to figure out, okay, maybe I can try this part of it. I can try this part, and it also puts you in a mindset of let's test some things, let's try some things, let's tweak it and keep going. Right. So again, all that to say, I took my coaching profession and put that in the book. Again, designed to help really people walk it out in a way that helps them move forward. What I say in general is part of my process, I need to move daily. And I strategically call it movement because I want to leave it open and flexible, right? If
Mm-hmm.
I say you have to go to the gym, 45 minutes a day or 30 minutes a day, at least X amount of times per week. Again, the goal is to introduce the idea and the concept, the truth, the fact, but to lower the barrier of entry for people,
Yeah.
right? Because at the end of the day, we just need to move. We need to be moving more, right? And that can change and evolve. So I don't definitively say, a specific thing around movement, but I'm also a caregiver. So my life was on fire a lot of this journey, and
Yeah.
I wasn't able to move even the way that I wanted to,
Right.
but I still had a transformation in my weight. And so I'm not saying not exercise, but
Gotcha.
I'm saying I'm just letting you know the power of nutrition to move the needle. Real health answers for weight loss after 40.
Okay.
The ultimate code to finally release the weight, reclaim your energy and joy.
That's what we all want.
I know. Yeah.
Um,
And this is the photo I took and sent to my nutritionist.
oh,
Hmm.
they're both you.
Yes, ma'am.
Wow. And the new you is,
Uh-huh.
did you say 60 pounds lighter?
Yep. Hmm.
Wow. That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
That's like a whole different person.
I know. Yep. Hmm. Yeah,
That's
this was it's
impressive.
I'm pushing 3 years now. It was right before I started my locks, obviously.
Right.
But yeah, I sent it to her and I was like, what is this? What is happening?
Are you accepting new clients?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
How would someone get in touch with you?
Hmm.
And do they need to be local?
Not at all. I work virtually. I coach virtually. So yeah, you can just go to my website, rhondaonamission.com. And there should be a section that'll say work with me, right? And so we'll book a discovery call because what I like to do is hear a little bit about your story, hear a little bit about where you are so that I can know if and how I can help you up front, right? I don't want to just kind of say, yeah, everybody come on in. I really want to hear more again because, for me at this point, weight is was my tipping point,
Mhm.
but it could be different things for different people, right? Because again, my whole thing is to help 100,000 plus women to reach a level of optimal health, joy, and life, right? And then coaching in general, I use, my 5 pillars of possibility. That is that clarity piece. And sometimes, yes, the weight and the health is a thing, but sometimes we need some clarity in some areas, right? We may need to set some boundaries in some areas. We may need to get around ourselves and get into bold and decisive action. So it's not just the weight piece. The weight is a bridge, but really, this is about awakening women over 40 that our lives do not have to start expiring. We can begin to make choices that matter for us. We can begin to put ourselves first without guilt and without shame. And so, again, it is, yeah, the bridge is the weight, right? But it often is going to be so much more there. But as the journey got longer and longer and longer, what did I want? I wanted joy. I
Mm,
wanted to get up and feel good. I
mhm.
wanted to be creative. I wanted a level of freedom. I wanted to just show up as me and not always feeling this cloud of things over me. And so, again, it was the way, but at the end of the day, it was so much more than that.
You're not restricting this to people who want to lose weight. People can contact you for other reasons also. Is that correct?
Yes, the larger picture is I am helping women rewrite what's possible after 40. And my goal is to help them reach a level of optimal health and well being, joy, and life. And so there's so much that can be under that. After 40, there's so much that's coming at us. There's so much coming at us in this world anyway, much less after 40. We're taking on so much. But again, your health, your joy, and your life do not have to expire. And you have the power to rewrite what's possible. So if what you want is not where you're standing, let's keep moving together.
If you would, one more time, how can people reach you? What is the name of your book?
You can find me online at Rhonda, RHONDA, on a mission.com. That's my website. You can find my programs. You can contact me there as well. And then my book, Real Health Answers for Weight Loss After 40, is available on Amazon.
Very nice.